Well, hello again, everybody, and God bless. This is Jonathan Reichel with this week's Real with God episode. And this past week was kind of exciting. I was presented with an opportunity just before I left to go to India that would provide me enough income to let me live for the next 2 months. And I'm convinced that the timing and the people that I'm working with and how it all worked out, it was just a gift of God that I received this opportunity. But I wanted to share this opportunity with you because I think it might bless you in the smile area. So I was contacted by a group of believers who were interested in in soliciting my video production services to film their TV series called Well-Fed Families. And the purpose of this series is to teach people how to use all natural ingredients to create delicious foods that are healthy, that are exactly as God intended for us to eat, and that can be done at home, that you can do yourself. And it was a 2-day film shoot, and we were able to complete everything on time and pretty much in time. And even though there were a couple of delays while shooting, we all shot it, and I got it taken care of. And while I was shooting this TV series, this cooking show about well-fed families and how we can feed ourselves and how nutrition is important, it reminded me of the beautiful parallel that all throughout the Word God shares with us about how man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. And I kept flipping back and forth in my mind, like, oh yeah, in churches where we're very dedicated and we're very focused in our Bible studies to really feed ourselves spiritually. And when you go to health classes, you're really focused on feeding yourself physically and exercising and eating well. And by keeping, by bouncing back and forth back and forth through the various ideas related to food and nourishment, it really reminded me that it's not just one or the other. It's very possible to be a health freak and to eat flawlessly and to completely neglect our spiritual lives, just like it's completely possible, and I'm sure we're all guilty of it at some point, to be really hot and heavy and focused on researching the things of God and really enriching our lives with Him spiritually, that we neglect, eating well and taking care of our physical body. But in the Bible, it talks about our body being called the temple. Our body is the new temple of God. Back in the day in the Old Testament, the temple was, a physical structure, or as a tabernacle, a mobile temple, a physical place that God would commune with people. But since Jesus Christ completed His work, our bodies are the temple. And that's kind of an interesting dual meaning, because not only in the ancient times and today when we visit churches, do people take pride in really taking care of the facility, taking care of the structure. It's a place of God. You want it to look the best and appear the best and be organized and be beautiful. You rarely walk into a cathedral and see trash everywhere. Rarely would you walk into a church and see graffiti all over the walls. And just in the same way, I think it's important for us to balance as we're feeding ourselves spiritually. Let's make sure that we do feed ourselves really good, godly foods. It makes no sense for us to junk out our physical bodies and have a great spiritual life and expect for everything to balance out. Just like it's completely imbalanced for us to, work out and be really physically able and completely starve ourselves spiritually. And I think the real focus of this episode, what we're discussing a little bit here, is that balance, is maintaining that balance by not focusing too much on one or too much on the other, but by elevating both, by taking care of what God has given us in our physical bodies, by eating well and exercising and getting out, and balancing that with our spiritual growth. Because if our body is constantly sick and if we're accepting that as the norm, then we're really blocking what God is trying to help us with spiritually. And just like if we're focusing on working out, looking the best we can look, while neglecting the things of God, it's just an imbalanced package. So as we move through this next week, I think it would be interesting to discuss the concepts of, frankly, how horribly most civilized, quote unquote, countries eat these days with various fast food and good Lord, lots of sugar. So to discuss the concepts of nutrition and health, while balancing that with the concepts of feeding ourselves spiritually. And what does that bring to your mind? What is that? How can that be equated and develop so we can maintain that balance. And I have a little prop here, not just because it's a prop, but because I've mostly been junking out my body this last week. I needed something healthy, so I went ahead and got me a salad in a bowl with a fork. And I'm going to eat this. Observe. And I would encourage every single one of us, just for the next week, to eat healthy and be healthy spiritually, and just see what it does for our energy, see what it does for our mood, see what it does for our productivity. And I think we will see that it will be something positive and something improved from last week. So, this week, let's find a way to improve our week by eating well, spiritually and physically. And just as a little PS, because I like sharing cool stuff, one of my all-time musical heroes, Stephen Curtis Chapman, this is a good salad. Stephen Curtis Chapman was performing a concert at Northland. It's a gigantor church that I volunteer at Nature's Table and work at Nature's Table. And I was told a week ago that I was going to have to work on the night of the concert, and I would be working at the place that the concert would be, serving food at the place that he would be performing. And I really had it on my heart, God, I would really like to at least see the man. You know, I've listened to his music for years and years and years, and he's really inspirational and really wonderful, but I'd like to see him. So I went to work and worked, several hours, and served lots of food to the guests that were coming in and out of the concert. And the time rolled around for us to close down shop, and Stephen hadn't quite gone on yet, and it was time for me to start to drive someone else back to their house. And I was thinking, as I was about to drive them home, I'd really still like to see Stephen Curtis Chapman, while he's here. And one thing led to another, and we had to go. So I hopped in the car and drove Donnie back home. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to fight for this. God, this is a desire of my heart. I would really like to see Stephen Curtis Chapman. Just see him. Just to see the man that has done so much good for you. Yeah. So I went ahead and after I dropped off Donnie, I turned around and started driving back to the church, and I was just speaking in tongues and believing, you know what, God, I'm expecting for this to happen. And the first time that I tried to sneak in to the concert, I didn't have a ticket. Obviously, I didn't buy one because I was working that night. Whenever I tried to sneak in, the security guards were kind of, saying, "Where's your ticket?" Which is what they do, so they were doing the right thing. I was being a little ninja. I was being James Bond here. So I wasn't able to get in that first time. But I drove back, and I looked around, and I noticed at the door, the guard was gone. So I said, God, if this is the opening, let it work. If it's not the opening, let it not work. But I just walked right up and walked right in, and there he was, Stephen Curtis Chapman with his band up on stage, singing the most beautiful songs, new songs, old songs, that really spoke to my heart and inspired me. And a little dream that I had, just a little something that I wanted to do, was to hear the one song that was my very first song that actually got me started listening to radio, and it's Stephen Curtis Chapman's song "Diving In." And the entire night went by, and we heard a lot of cool songs, a lot of new stuff, a lot of old stuff. And the very last song that he played, even after the standing ovation, after he was about to leave, he went back on stage and said, "You know what? I have an idea. I think you might enjoy this." And he played that first chord, and I was like, "Yes! Yeah! Wow!" And I had so much fun. I literally sang out loud with the entire congregation of this 7,000 person church or whatever. Everyone that had paid to get into the concert, and God just gifted me with the opportunity to see Stephen Curtis Chapman perform that song, and it blessed me so much. So the purpose of that spiel is just to share with you the testimony that even just, it was a big deal, but it was a little deal, but it was a big deal, and God noticed, and God cared, and He gave me the desire of my heart, just because I was willing to ask. So this next week, as we're eating healthy and thinking healthy and feeding ourselves spiritually, let's be aware of what God is trying to do, and be willing to speak with Him about what we'd like to take place. Fellowship will be Sunday at 3 p.m. East Coast time. I look forward to seeing you there. And for the next week, let's eat some time with God. Love you guys. God bless. Bye-bye.